Eggs, milk, bread, ground beef, butter. These aren't luxury items. They're the essentials of everyday life. But suddenly, buying these basics feels like a premium shopping spree. Grocery prices are surging. And for families living paycheck to paycheck, even a small hike in food costs isn't just an inconvenience. It's a crisis. While inflation and the pandemic often take the blame, the reality is far more layered, far more unsettling. And it's time we talked about it. At first glance, it looks like a simple case of inflation or disrupted supply chains. COVID-19 upended economies, factories shut down, shipping slowed, and prices naturally crept up. But here's the catch. While we were busy blaming global events, food corporations were quietly breaking profit records. Executives' salaries soared, shareholders received unprecedented dividends, and the CEOs, behind the scenes, grinned their way through earnings calls. So what's really going on? To understand the true reason behind skyrocketing grocery bills, we need to journey deep into our food system. A system that's brilliant, complicated, and, as it turns out, disturbingly flawed. The tomatoes in your salad? They likely traveled hundreds, even thousands of miles. The meat in your burger? Processed through a highly consolidated and secretive network. And the eggs in your fridge? Let's just say there's more than bird flu behind their rising cost. Let's rewind way back, 8,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. The foundation of our food economy started with a brilliant idea: surplus. Communities began producing more food than they needed and trading it with neighboring groups. Those near salt mines exchanged with wheat growers. Everyone benefited. This simple barter system exploded into something massive. Trade routes developed, empires rose to protect them, and humanity became obsessed with doing it better, faster, and on a larger scale. From the Silk Road to modern shipping routes, the history of food has always mirrored the history of trade. Tomatoes reached Italy, chilies spiced up Asia, and coffee found its way to Europe, kicking off entire movements of thought and culture. But despite this globalization, food remained expensive. In the 1700s, people in Britain spent up to 75% of their income just to eat. France, almost the same, 70% on bread alone. But then, things changed. Slowly, then all at once. By the 1900s, thanks to industrialization and innovation, that number dropped to 42%, then 34% by the 1930s. After World War II, a new global system emerged. Standardization became the name of the game. Shipping containers, barcode systems, refrigeration. Suddenly, a tomato grown in Mexico could end up on a shelf in Chicago for pennies. The food system became a marvel of modern logistics. But this beautiful, efficient machine also became a fragile house of cards. Let's follow the journey of a simple tomato. Picked while still green in Mexico, gassed with ethylene to ripen at just the right time, chilled, packaged, loaded onto trucks, inspected at borders, transferred through warehouses in Illinois, and finally stacked neatly at your local grocery store. A 9-day journey, hundreds of workers, thousands of miles, all to sell you a tomato for $2 a pound. It's a feat of modern coordination, but also a ticking time bomb. Why? Because this system, while efficient, is deeply vulnerable. Drought in Canada? Say goodbye to affordable canola oil. Flooding in Florida? Orange prices skyrocket. A conflict in Ukraine? Wheat and fertilizer prices soar. Every little hiccup, a worker strike, a hurricane, a packaging shortage, ripples through the system, driving up costs at every stage. This is called a supply chain shock, and it's the first major reason food prices have shot up in recent years. But here's the twist, the one that should make your blood boil. Those supply chain issues? They're real, but they've also been weaponized. Let's talk about eggs. Yes, the avian flu hit hard, killing millions of hens. And yes, the supply dipped slightly, But then you see this. Cal-Maine Foods, the largest egg producer in the US, tripled its profits during this so-called crisis. Their stock price soared. Shareholders pocketed $250 million. And all of us? We paid more than double for a dozen eggs. Why? Because they could raise prices, and we accepted it. The supply of eggs didn't collapse. In fact, it barely dipped. Yet prices skyrocketed and profits exploded. This isn't a coincidence. It's market manipulation. And it's not isolated to eggs. 3 companies control nearly 80% of the pasta market. 4 firms handle 85% of beef processing. 2 companies dominate canned tuna. 1 controls seed genetics. Just 4 supermarket chains account for 70% of all grocery sales. When you only have a handful of players in charge, there's no competition, only cooperation to keep prices high. During COVID, food companies realized something terrifyingly profitable. If they increased prices, customers didn't push back. We were too distracted, too worried, too used to crisis. And so, companies kept raising prices, well beyond what their increased costs demanded. Hershey's CFO even admitted it, pricing and productivity gains more than offset inflation. Translation? We're charging more than we need to, and it's working. And this wasn't just Hershey. It was Frito-Lay, PepsiCo, virtually every major food corporation. While families struggled to afford groceries, these companies laughed their way to the bank. Corporate profits hit a 70-year high. Meanwhile, government programs had to fill the gap, and taxpayers effectively subsidized corporate greed. So, what do we do? Is there hope? Actually, yes. The Department of Justice is investigating Cal-Maine for price fixing. McDonald's is suing meat suppliers for collusion. There are antitrust movements growing in power, calling for the breakup of these monopolies. And internationally, there are models worth watching. In Mexico, for instance, the government launched a voluntary price control program called the Basic Basket. For around $40, Mexican families can buy a set amount of staples, rice, meat, milk, at regulated prices. Major players like Walmart Mexico are participating. And the result? Prices dropped by 12% last year. It's a small but powerful reminder that when governments step in, when transparency is demanded, things can change. We don't need to accept exploitative pricing. We don't need to tolerate deceptive storytelling from corporations that claim scarcity while rolling in profits. The food system has brought us extraordinary abundance, but it's built on a structure that's now favoring shareholders over families. The very system designed to make food cheaper is now being used to quietly make it more expensive. That's a market failure. And when markets fail, it's up to us, citizens, voters, consumers, to push for reform. Food is not a luxury. It's not a business like sneakers or smartphones. It's survival. It's culture. It's family. And we deserve a food system that feeds people,